My name is Celia.
Hi, my name is Anna.
My name's Leslie.
I was born and raised in New York City, specifically in Queens, and I was raised in a Muslim family. My parents are Muslims. Being the oldest daughter in my family, it was pretty hard the way I was raised, especially being in America and having an identity crisis, being very sheltered the way I was raised and not being able to do what many other girls my age were able to do at school. I knew that my life was going to end in probably some sort of arranged marriage or something else that would have been planned for me rather than for me to plan for myself. I didn't want to be like many of the women in my family who often just stayed home and didn't have a voice and were in unhappy, abusive marriages. I went to college and I worked very hard. I was adamant about finding out the truth. And from there, I left Islam. I ended up receiving many death threats, and that really became very difficult for me. I had to go to the police and everything, and I was so fearful of what had happened and potentially being killed for changing my religion. I did end up totally being ostracized from the Muslim community, and I no longer have communication with my biological family.
Prior to becoming a Christian, I feel that there was always a knowledge of God and a desire within me to get to know Him more. I was never really taken to church or anything as a child, but I always, kind of watched my mom when she was, looking at the Lord's Supper that we had on our wall in our living room. And I always felt that God was real and that I needed to know Him. But I was never really given the opportunity to go to church and learn about God.
I always believed, although I had no Christian upbringing. I never even known the Bible. As a child, I couldn't have friends. My parents didn't want other children around, so I would go in the woods and make my own fantasy world. I left home at 15. Joined the carnival, raised myself. I always wanted to have friends, so I would go out of my way to do whatever I could to be liked. So a lot of my girlfriends or acquaintances would befriend me for a reason, and as soon as the reason wasn't available anymore, I was expendable. And it was lonely, and I kept looking for something that I didn't know if it really existed or not, but I just always had this feeling that I had to keep going, I had to keep going. So I was living a life that was very void and just getting through day by day, and really had nothing to look forward to or nothing to look back on. It was almost like living in a black hole.
I was probably in my 30s before I started listening to Christian radio in my car, and I was just drawn to learning more, and eventually that convicted me to come to church. Dr. Jeremiah always said on Friday, you need to go to church, that the radio should not be your substitute for your church family. So that's when I started to look for a church home. I became a Christian on November 8th of 2020, right here in our parking lot at Community Alliance Church. I remember that day, my friend Linda and Suzanne were watching my granddaughter while I was chatting with Pastor Jack, and I explained to him, how I had said the sinner's prayer so many times before and just never felt assured. So I had some questions that needed to be answered, and Pastor Jack answered my questions, and he was so kind and caring, and he just reassured me. So we said the sinner's prayer again, and I haven't doubted my salvation since, and I am so relieved and so happy that I took the time with Pastor Jack that day.
It happened when I was 65. I'm 66 now. It was just the empathy for animals and I could see how God worked through animals, and I could relate to them. And it was just the love, unconditional love that they always extended to me, that I could extend back and not be afraid of. My last dog had a nonprofit. All of a sudden, it's a miracle, divine intervention, come out of nowhere. I was making a GoFundMe page because she needed surgery. And they reached out to me, and for almost 5 years, they did everything. They took care of all medications, $1,000 a month. I had 5 years to sober up, to stop cutting, to stop doing all these things, because Julie needed me more. And I kept saying, well, if I'm cockeyed, I can't take my dog to the vet at 2 o'clock in the morning, can I? And that would be it. I just saw so many incredible things happening around me that I knew that it was God, and he just kept calling my name.
I would say about 10 years after leaving Islam was when I started feeling there's a huge emptiness. And I was curious if there's any other faiths out there that have a different relationship with God, a loving relationship. It wasn't until I joined the Navy Reserves later in my life. I remember giving the church a chance, and I actually went to the service the Sunday morning. It wasn't because I was interested, I needed a break. Like, it was so stressful at boot camp, so I went there and there was a lot of singing, totally not what I'm used to at all. And I will always remember the song How Great Is Your Love by Chris Tomlin came up, and everyone was singing and their arms were up, and I was looking around and I was just kind of felt out of place, like I didn't know how to worship. But I started really listening to the lyrics, and so I don't know what it was. It could have been stress, but I started crying, and I felt in that moment that there's something missing, and this might be it. It might be the love from Christ and the mercy from Christ. And it's from that moment I realized that maybe I should look into this further. When I started my family, I knew I wanted a value-based family, and faith is very important to me, even though I didn't have a faith. And I actually ended up joining the Boston Spa Mom Group, which is a part of this church, and that helped talking to other moms. I, again, felt out of place because I thought I was the only person that's a brand new person to the faith that didn't have all the answers. But I saw that even though people don't have the same exact path, that there were other new Christians there. So that was beneficial that we were learning together. And as time went by, I started attending church. I started bringing my husband and my son. With each sermon and each Bible study that I would do independently, it really made sense. And it really makes sense when I hear that the Bible isn't just a book, it's more of a guide for your life. The Bible really is timeless, and that's really what bought me, I guess, why I decided to convert to Christianity.
I started out attending our Bible studies, and the ladies at the Bible study wanted me to participate in children's church. And I had been serving in children's church for about 2.5 years. And then they started to encourage me to step up and become one of the teachers in children's church. And again, driving to work one morning, I was listening to Charles Stanley on the radio, and it just, there's a sense that came about me to step up in children's church. And I kept trying to concentrate on the radio, and I just couldn't concentrate. So when I got to work, I reached out to Lana. I said to Lana, is this God telling me that I should step up and become a teacher in children's church? And Lana said to me, she said, yes, we met last night, that Wednesday night, and we were praying for leaders to step up. She says, I do believe that this is from God. So here I am, teaching children's church, something that I never thought I could do. You know, what I like best about that is it gives me extra study material, and I can learn things with the children, because as I prepare for the lesson, I will read everything through my Bible. I'll read the lesson in my Bible, and then I'll read my granddaughter's Bibles and bring it down to their level. And I just feel like that's an extra way of learning more about God. In the beginning of this year, you, Pastor Aaron, had a challenge for the church to work on our spiritual gifts and talents. So Lana reached out to me and asked me to be her partner, which was an honor, because I think a lot of Lana. So Lana and I are each working individually and together. We meet once a month to touch base and encourage each other in our walk, and it's a lot of fun, and it's encouraging to have another person, come alongside you, and you can rely on them, and you can support the other person.
I struggle with PTSD, and it's very difficult for me most days, and it will never go away. But knowing that God is on my side, and the way that God is expressed in the stories of the Bible and the tests that he would give to his people that were expressed in the Bible have really made me look at things differently. It doesn't mean I don't experience triggers anymore, but it helped me calm down a lot. And that has improved the quality of my life a lot. Before, I would be triggered a lot, and even if I'd have nightmares, even if I don't have any triggers, and I still have nightmares, but now when I wake up, I remember that I'm loved by God and there's nothing to be afraid of, and just knowing that is helpful.
I felt love for the first time. I instantly loved myself, which was amazing, and it still amazes me every day. I thank him for that. I'm happy. And I keep saying that because if you've never felt happiness at all, even once in your life, for 65 years, if you all of a sudden are happy, it is an amazing, amazing, amazing transformation that I don't even know if people could even comprehend. I had seizures, which I don't anymore, and I heard seizures are not the worst of your problem. Seizures are not your problem. You're gonna have the hardest year of your life, but I'll be by you all the way. And 2 weeks later, I found out I have cancer. About 4 months ago, 3.5 months ago, I had 3.5 days, nonstop. Grand Mal, just couldn't eat anything. I sat on the couch and cried and said, Lord Jesus, I'll die tonight if this continues. I said, I need you, Lord. Help me, please. And all of a sudden I said, it's the devil. I'm getting closer to you. He's losing his prodigal child. It's the devil. He wants me to give in. And with that, I just felt a warm feeling, a peace, and I've never had a seizure since then. I still have cancer, which is getting worse, and they don't know how to treat it because they can't find where the cancer is in my body. I have it in 3 places, but it's not causing what's going on in my body. So it's a little difficult, but I find a lot of strength. I find all my strength in God. I love the church, and thank you, Sharon, for talking to me at Walmart. And it's amazing because now I talk to other people at stores. God has something with stores for us, because I met a couple people at stores, and we started talking about Christianity and such, and I just want to thank everybody for being so kind.